Hello and welcome to Native Speakers Academy's Underground Education. My name is G and I am your host. So, this is designed to be a short digital media netcast in which we are going to look at different issues related to education, schools, society, and learning in general. Our aim is to highlight ideas that empower you to take more control of your own life. So, let's get on with it. Today's article is 5 Things I Learned from George Bailey, which was posted on the internet by Mark Spearman, and the source is the pioneerwoman.com website. And links to sources can be found in the description connected to this post. If you are unfamiliar with the name George Bailey, which you may be if you are not connected to Western culture or you're quite young, because it's in fact related to a film that was made way back in 1946. It's a Wonderful Life starred James Stewart and Donna Reed, and is an American Christmas fantasy comedy drama produced and directed by Frank Capra. It was based on a short story, The Greatest Gift, which Philip Van Doren Stern wrote in 1939 and published in 1945. The film is considered one of the most loved films in American cinema and has become traditional viewing during the Christmas season. And so George Bailey is the main character in the film, and he is played by the actor James Stewart. If you haven't seen the film, don't worry. The points that the writer wishes to make are still very relevant to those of us who haven't seen the film. It might even make you want to go back and have a look at the film and maybe reevaluate it in your own way. So let's begin. Each man's life touches so many other lives. When he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he? Those are the words of an angel, second class, named Clarence, as he tries to distill for George Bailey one of life's essential truths. Few movies resonate so powerfully after more than 60 years, but It's a Wonderful Life is timeless, in large part due to its simplicity and its universal gems of wisdom. For me, the essence of the story is conveyed early in George's dark night of the soul, at the bedside of his tiny daughter, Zuzu Bailey, who is sick with a fever. She shows her father the flowers she won at school. So treasured is this delicate specimen that Zuzu walks home that December day with her coat open to protect her flower from the wind. A few petals fall away, and she asks her father to make the flower whole, which he cannot, so he places the loose petals in his pocket. Later, when the angel Clarence gives George a glimpse of what might have been, the petals, and so much more that can be humanly reckoned, are gone. The story that follows is a parable about what matters and what doesn't. Along the way, there are many lessons to be learned, and for that, George Bailey, we thank you. Ask Dad. He knows. There's a strong theme of fatherhood throughout It's a Wonderful Life that jumps into the frame the first 10 minutes of the film. Working his after-school job at Gower's Pharmacy, young George is handed a rush delivery of diphtheria medicine. George discovers the grief-stricken and drunken Mr. Gower has mistakenly filled the capsules with poison. Distraught and confused, he sees an advertisement on the wall with the slogan, "Ask Dad. He knows." In a sense, George spends his whole life chasing after the ghost of his father, at first struggling against following the same path, but later trying to define what the elder Bailey would do in his shoes. Often, years and maturity are required to truly appreciate the wisdom of our fathers. My own dad, much like Peter Bailey, has never been one to push advice, but when asked, I have always found his words to be sound. As George confides to his father in what becomes their final conversation, "Pop, do you want a shock? I think you're a great guy." Sometimes something special is right under your nose. Countless movies show us that point at which two people come round to the realization that they care for one another. If there is one as genuine and sweet as the moment George Bailey and Mary Hatch come to such an understanding, I have not seen it. "Now you listen to me," George insists, as he fights the long-buried feelings that well up and overwhelm him. "I don't want any ground floors, and I don't want to get married ever to anyone. You understand that? I want to do what I want to do." And they collapse into each other's arms. Mary knows they belong together, ever since that day in Gower's pharmacy when she whispers in the bad ear of the 12-year-old George her undying love. Maybe George knows as well, but that knowledge would be among the things he has suppressed, for good or ill, for dreams of a life less ordinary. Of course, seeing things hidden in plain sight is easier said than done. George is fortunate to have had Mary, the constant and bright moral centre of the story, and maybe the true hero of It's a Wonderful Life. How to give the perfect housewarming toast. There's a lovely little scene that is rarely mentioned, but it touches me each time I see it. George and Mary help the Martinis move into their new home, including shutting much of the Martini brew and the family goat in their car. Afterward, the Baileys offer 3 small gifts and this simple toast: bread, that this house may never know hunger; salt, that life may always have flavour; and wine, that joy and prosperity may reign forever. It reflects a sentiment woven throughout the story, that things of true worth are not measured in dollars, but in the currency of friendship and family, and the good karma one puts into the world. May be best expressed by the motto in Peter Bailey's office: "All that you can take with you is which you've given away." The calmest, clearest voice in the room usually speaks the truth. The corollary is the loudest, most urgent voice in the room, and is often wrong. During a panic-fueled run on the banks, George is confronted by a frightened, angry mob, demanding all of their holdings in cash. "The money's not here," George tells the maddening crowd. "Your money's in Joe's house, and in the Kennedy house, and in the McLachlan's house, and in 100 others. We've got to stick together. We've got to have faith in each other." It's also a crucial lesson about the corrosiveness of panic and those times when the smartest course is to do nothing. When I was a teenager, I saved my paper route earnings to take flying lessons at the sod-covered county airstrip near home. My instructor was a cantankerous and tantrum-prone retired Air Force major named Pete. He, like George, professed the first and most important thing to do when you're lost: stop. Think. No drastic moves. You'll become more lost. Maybe forever lost. Just as the building and loan shareholders surely would have been. I've found this bit of wisdom truly life-saving more than once, because sometimes the calm voice you need to hear is your own. So thanks, George. So we move on to the final part of the article. I really do have a wonderful life. and maybe so do you. I know that's the whole point of the movie, but books and plays and films have been trying to tell us this for centuries. There's a haunting moment in Thornton Wilder's Our Town. The protagonist, Emily Webb, passes away in childbirth and joins spirits looking down on their loved ones going about the business of everyday life. Emily asks her mother, "Do any human beings realize life while they live it? Every minute?" "No," answers mother. "The saints and poets, maybe they do. Some." It's a Wonderful Life deserves credit for not solving every problem with the tinkling of a bell. When George emerges from the nightmare of Pottersville, there's still a Mr. Potter, no doubt with further designs on the building and lawn. And George will continue to struggle on $45 a week. The old Granville house remains in disrepair, and the Baileys may never venture beyond Bedford Falls. But it is George that is different, and he becomes the change he wishes for the world. He does this by rediscovering the seemingly simple, commonplace things that are anything but. Like embracing an old friend, realizing that people do care, or reaching into your pocket and finding the petals of a rose of a little girl. Or reaching into your pocket to find the petals of a rose a little girl tried to shelter from the cold. For that, George, we can never thank you enough. And so, that was today's article. It is available on the pioneerwoman.com website. It's written by Mark Spearman, and the title is 5 Things I Learned from George Bailey. I'd like to thank you for your attention. And a little reminder that Native Speakers Academy is a small independent centre for educational theory and research. Please support us by visiting our website. You can find us also on Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, Google+, and in many other places. Our websites are nsa-slovakia.com and nsa-education.com. If you like the information presented here, you can share this or share the original article. I hope to talk to you again soon, and until then, stay safe, have a good day, and bye for now.